Niccolò Machiavelli, 16th century Italian diplomat, political thinker, arch baddie. His name conjures up everything that's sly about human behavior. Because of this, The Prince, written 500 years ago, it's about power, how to get it and how to keep it.
It can be said of men that they are ungrateful, fickle, liars and deceivers. They shun danger and are greedy for profit. Therefore, it is necessary for a ruler who wishes to maintain his position to learn how to be able not to be good.
Was Machiavelli right? Should we all learn how not to be good? Is it better to be feared than loved? And who are the 21st century Machiavellians?
Machiavelli ha scritto Il Principe.
Where he wrote The Prince?
Sì,
yeah.
Exactly.
And what is this?
And that is his coat of arms, his family's coat of arms, the cross and the nails.
The cross and the nails?
Mm-hmm. Machiavelli. It is dated back to his name, Machiavelli, so related with the cross and the nails of Christ.
Not a bad coat of arms for a man who, for centuries, was known as the Antichrist. There aren't many documents relating to Machiavelli at this time, but this year, British historian Stephen Milner discovered one of the most important of all. He was researching Florentine town criers when he stumbled across Machiavelli's arrest warrant.
Florence was an incredible place for collecting documents, and partly because they didn't trust each other. So, where are we? There we go.
Oh, there we go. So this is it.
You
just happened to...
I ordered this particular volume, and this was the one that contained the original proclamation that was carried through the city by the town crier, and that they actually would have read and held whilst on horseback through the various places where these proclamations were made. You see there's a little hole in the middle where they put them on a spike for record keeping. And here we see Niccolò di Messer Bernardo Machiavelli.
So what is the arrest before?
The proclamation is asking, it's a notice asking for the whereabouts of Machiavelli and for people to come forward with information. It actually says, within the hour, inter una ora da ora, which gives you some idea of the urgency that lay behind his arrest. And it says, if they are not informed, they will not be excused. So there are no excuses for not notifying. So it is a kind of most wanted proclamation, if you like.
For Machiavelli, it's more important to play the game well than to be morally good.
Chapter 18 of the need for princes to keep their word. Everybody knows how commendable it is for a ruler to keep his word and live by integrity rather than by cunning. And yet, experience shows us that rulers with little regard for their word have achieved great things, being expert at beguiling men's minds.
Not a single more Machiavellian environment than the music industry on this planet. It makes Hollywood look like kindergarten. It is ruthless. It's the Game of Thrones times 5.
Tupac Shakur. He'd been a huge fan of Machiavelli before he was gunned down in 1996. When he was in prison, he studied The Prince, and when he got out, he changed his name to Makaveli and made videos like this.
Makaveli the Don. This must be a fox to spot the snares, and a lion to overwhelm the wolves. Those who rely merely upon the lion's strength do not understand this. Therefore, a prudent ruler cannot keep his word, nor should he, when it would be to his disadvantage to do so. If all men were good, this rule would not stand. But as men are wicked and not prepared to keep their word to you, you have no need to keep your word to them.
The Prince has been inspiring the powerful and the tyrannical. Napoleon read it, so did Stalin. He made notes in the margin. Mussolini even did his dissertation on it. It's always been the book of choice for political operators.
Those best able to imitate the fox have succeeded best. But foxiness should be well concealed. One must be a great feigner and dissembler. A deceiver will always find someone willing to be deceived. If a ruler who wants always to act honorably is surrounded by many unscrupulous men, his downfall is inevitable. Therefore, it is necessary for a ruler who wishes to maintain his position to learn how to be able not to be good. When one sees him, a ruler must be a paragon of mercy, loyalty, humanness, integrity, and scrupulousness. Indeed, there's nothing more important than appearing to have this last quality, for the common people are impressed by appearances and results. This raises the question of whether it is better to be loved than feared. My reply is that one would like to be both. But as it is difficult to combine love and fear, it is far safer to be feared. Because it can be said of men that they are ungrateful, fickle, liars and deceivers. They shun danger and are greedy for profit.
England was the country that really played the biggest role in spreading this idea that this man was satanic.
Shakespeare doesn't exactly help, as Machiavelli's name is evoked by the scheming Duke of Gloucester, the future Richard III.
I can add colours to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school.
We may have inherited this idea of Machiavelli as the devil, but that's not what the Italians think. Rules of power, it seems, are just as applicable today as they were 500 years ago. Originally a manual for the Medici, The Prince could just as easily be a modern self-help book.
How to avoid contempt and hatred. Princes must delegate difficult tasks to others and keep popular ones for themselves. Chapter 3. It should be observed here that men should either be caressed or crushed, because they can avenge slight injuries, but not those that are very severe.
The biggest irony in this whole story is that Machiavelli himself didn't appear to be in the least bit Machiavelli. When evening comes, I go back home. I take off my work clothes and put on the clothes of an ambassador. I enter the ancient courts of rulers. I forget every worry. I'm no longer afraid of poverty or frightened of death. I live entirely through them. Machiavelli died in 1527 at the age of 58, 5 years before The Prince was published. Little did he know that 500 years later, what he called his little pamphlet would remain one of the most influential books ever written.